Meet the Fantastic Four, four friends imbued with superpowers during a test flight through dangerous cosmic rays. There's Reed Richards, also known as Mr. Fantastic, an unparalleled genius with the power to stretch his body. Sue Storm, the Invisible Woman. Calm and confident, she can turn invisible and create invisible force fields. Her brother Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, a hot-headed daredevil who can, appropriately enough, burst into flame. And of course, the heart and soul of the FF, and my personal favorite, Benjamin J. Grimm, the ever-loving, blue-eyed thing, the super-strong test pilot, cursed with a monstrous form. Hi, I'm Movie Man Eric Houston. The Fantastic Four's adventures are high-flying sci-fi sagas with a sharp sense of humor and classic villains like Doctor Doom and Galactus. But what defines the Fantastic Four more than anything else is that they are a tight-knit family, both figuratively and literally, thanks to the marriage of Reed and Sue. It's their love for each other and their familial bickering that makes them stand out from the likes of the Avengers or the JLA. Now, my first exposure to this fearless foursome wasn't on the page, but through one of their many cartoon series. It was on Sunday mornings, and I would rush home after church to try to catch those last few minutes of the show. More often than not, it was too late, and the fact that their adventures were just out of my reach only made them seem more special and more exciting. The Fantastic Four first came to the screen in 1967, only 6 years after their comic debut. Ironically, it was this series, and not one of the more contemporary ones, that I first caught glimpses of on those Sunday mornings. The show aired for only a single year, although it would be endlessly rebroadcast, and was produced by TV animation legends William Hanna and Joseph Barbera. The limited budgets of TV animation at the time somewhat restrained the action, but the look of the show is terrific, featuring designs by the legendary Alex Toth. The voice work is also great, with the Thing's voice provided by Paul Frees, who you probably know best as Boris Badenov.
That's the robot that brought us here. Let's get him. No, Ben.
The FF returned to the screen 11 years later, this time in a series from animation studio DePatie Freleng, which was probably most famous for producing The Pink Panther. Despite the involvement of the Fantastic Four's creators, Stan the Man Lee as a writer, and the legendary Jack King Kirby as a storyboard artist, this series floundered. This is partly because DePatie Freleng just wasn't as good a studio as Hanna-Barbera. But the show's biggest problem was that it replaced the Human Torch with Herbie the robot. For a long time, the story was that producers were worried that the Human Torch would inspire kids to light themselves on fire. But the reality is that Marvel had sold off the rights to the Human Torch separately to create his own solo show. And while that show never materialized, that agreement still meant that creators of this series needed to come up with a replacement character. The first and only member of the FF to actually get his own series was, unsurprisingly, Aunt Petunia's favorite nephew, The Thing, in a show called Fred and Barney Meet the Thing, which featured both Flintstone cartoons and Thing cartoons, but never the two together, which seems like a real shame.
Delicious, Miss Twilly!
This version of The Thing, though, is completely unique and would never appear anywhere else. Here, Ben Grimm is a scrawny teenager with a pair of magic rings. When he slams the rings together and intones,
"Ring, ring, do your thing!"
he turns into the familiar orange-skinned hero. This series was again produced by Hanna-Barbera, so at least the animation is good, but heaven knows how they came up with this bonkers conceit. In any event, The Thing only lasted for 1 year and 26 animated shorts before being replaced by The Shmoo. Fast forward to the 1990s and Fox Kids' Saturday mornings, where the X-Men cartoon is a huge hit. Likely inspired by that success, New World Pictures debuted a new Fantastic Four cartoon as part of the Marvel Action Hour syndicated block. The first season was nothing special, featuring limited animation and juvenile scripts. But the show was retooled for its second year, suddenly becoming a must-see cartoon with improved animation and much more interesting stories that offered a surprisingly faithful adaptation of, roughly, issues 39 to 60 of Lee and Kirby's original FF comics. Some of the very best comics ever made. To this day, this show is easily my favorite direct adaptation of the Fantastic Four. Around this same time, the FF were finally making their way to the big screen with a feature film produced by legendary schlock movie maestro Roger Corman, and starring, well, no one you've ever really heard of, but at least it had a cool animatronic thing head.
It's clobbering time.
Even if the rest of the effects left something to be desired. I remember reading about this one in the pages of Wizard magazine and getting really excited. Sure, it was never going to be a big-budget special effects spectacular, but just seeing your favorite characters in live action up on the screen counted for something. And after all, you're talking to the kid who thought the Captain America movie was something.
Holy mackerel.
Now, don't be surprised if you've never seen this one. FF fans waited for months and then years, but the movie never came out. The backstory is pretty complicated. In short, a producer named Bernd Eichinger purchased the rights to make a Fantastic Four movie in the 80s. By 1993, though, he still hadn't made one, and his rights were about to expire. Unless, that is, he was actively producing a movie. So in order to keep the rights, Eichinger teamed with Corman to produce a $1 million Fantastic Four movie. The cast and crew did their best with the meager budget and, when completed, eagerly awaited a premiere that never came. Just what happened is a little hard to say. Stan Lee contended that Eichinger never actually intended to release the movie, but Eichinger and Corman dispute this. In any case, a Marvel executive named Avi Arad heard about the movie and, fearing its release would be embarrassing for Marvel, paid Eichinger off and destroyed the negatives. Eichinger's plan had worked, though. He held onto the rights and bounced the FF from studio to studio and director to director for another decade, before finally bringing them to the big screen in a pair of movies that featured Jessica Alba as the Invisible Woman, Michael Chiklis as the Thing, and yes, Chris Evans, Captain America himself, as the Human Torch.
Now picture that, but everywhere.
As big a Fantastic Four fan as I am, I still had a hard time getting excited about these films. The casting and effects are nothing special, and the stories are only occasionally campy enough to be memorable. Mostly, they're just mediocre attempts to ride the wave of early 2000s superhero films sparked by the X-Men movies. 20th Century Fox produced those films and another grittier version in 2015 that looks so bad that I've never been able to bring myself to see it, even though it features Michael B. Jordan and Kate Mara. There was also another FF cartoon around that same time that featured a Thing with a 4 spray painted on his chest, and honestly, the less said about that, the better. With Disney's purchase of Fox in 2019, the Fantastic Four movie rights are now back at Marvel, which is also owned by Disney. And I have high hopes that, given Marvel's high success rate, that they'll finally be able to put together a movie that's worthy of the characters. In the meantime, though, there is one great Fantastic Four movie out there, The Incredibles. If you haven't seen it, Brad Bird's animated film really is one of the best superhero movies of all time, and outside of featuring characters whose powers suspiciously echo the FF's, it really gets what makes the Fantastic Four great, that they're a family. And it's those family moments, along with great action and humor, that makes The Incredibles such a worthy, if outside-the-box, interpretation of the world's greatest comics magazine.